Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the brightness session. Brightness is a green jasmine tea. So, some of you this session have an imagination that we're going to go back to the very beginning. And not so much my very beginning, but most people's beginning with tea, or many people's, what I should say, beginning with tea, which is folks drank jasmine tea. You went to a Chinese restaurant as a child, jasmine tea was served. Anytime that there was a tea event, jasmine tea was a recognizable tea. And hence, over the years, especially by a crew like this, and what do I mean? That's all of us who have experience with these extraordinary teas. Jasmine gets lost in the shuffle. Now, is that deserved or undeserved? Well, given the jasmine you normally get, say, at a restaurant, then that's deserved, right? But let me refresh your memory about a few things. So if I say dragon pearls, oh yes, Sophie's dragon pearls were unique. If I say reed fragrance, oh yeah, that thing was okay. I could drink that. What about brightness? Where does it belong in this pantheon? Hey, this question actually assumes it does belong. Now let me think about this. Were it Sophie's cup of tea? Ah, it must belong. So while all of you were catching your last dose of morning sleep, now I know that's not all of you because some of you are early risers. You go out to the farm, you till the field or pick the berries, pick the crops. I understand that. We have a wide audience here. But during that time, whatever you were doing, I sent you a map of Guangxi province. Guangxi province is in southwest China, and it's one of the three provinces in southwest China that is part of the southwest province makeup. If you take a look at that map, you'll see a place called Nanning. It's easy to find because it has a big star next to it. That's the capital of Guangxi. That's not exactly where we're talking about today. We'll be talking about south and slightly west. So if your eyes can trace all the way to the border, that's the border with Vietnam and China, you'll see a place, Fangcheng Guan, Fangchengguan. You'll see a dot there and that name right on the border. We're there today, and we're a little bit north of that as well today. What else is Guangxi famous for? And why would you recognize potentially one other name? If you look to the north, towards the east, there's some place called Guilin, Guiling. Many Westerners have heard of Guilin because that's like one of those romantic places in China. And it's romantic because early Westerners, and I really mean post 1980, Westerners went to this place, beautiful, beautiful area. And many of them settled there for brief periods of time. Lots of more casual cafes, just a beautiful place. But you see, that's very far away from where we are today. But that's why you may have heard of this province before. Many, many indigenous peoples in this province, many indigenous peoples involved in the tea and in the jasmine industry, also as farmers. So what are they farming here? They have bamboo farms, they have rice farms, they have corn farms, and many farmers have all three. Why? Because in this area, their approach to agriculture has been different than many other areas because they've actually set those farms contiguous to one another and they raise different livestock in each of those areas. Well, that sounds kind of cute. Are they doing it because, hey, I like a variety for dinner and breakfast and so forth? And the answer, of course, would be no. They're doing it because the livestock that they raise in those areas actually eats the bugs. So the ducks are in the bamboo forests or farms. The chickens are they're not in the rice, they're in the corn area. And so they're eating the bugs that inhabit these areas. So this is all part of a natural system of controlling pests in that area. So let's think again a little bit about that area. Looking at that map, if your eyes wander to the left, there's Vietnam. If your eyes wander to the right, there's Canton Province. Now, what links those two? The Tropic of something. Is it the Tropic of Gemini? The Tropic of Aries? Oh no, I think it's the Tropic of Cancer. And the weather along that line is intensely warm and humid. It's perfect for the production of jasmine flowers. Turns out 80% of jasmine tea comes from the county called Hengxian, which is close to that Fangchengguan area in China. I put the in China at the end, so let me restate that. 80% of jasmine tea grown and produced in China comes from this particular area. So this area must be special. Well, it is, of course, from a climate perspective. And all these indigenous jasmines. Now, all of you I know are raising your hands to ask a question because you're reminding me, didn't you tell us before that jasmine is not indigenous to this area? And the answer to that would be yes. Jasmine was not in China pre 200 AD. This came apparently across the Silk Road. And jasmine, you get jasmine from Egypt and India, Turkey, a bunch of places where it could have come from. Bunch of different varietals came to China. And by the Han Dynasty, 200 AD or so, it was listed as being in China. And then it was listed in the Tang Dynasty, 618 to 960 approximately, as being this kind of a popular, nice flower. And by the end of the Tang, beginning the Sung, somewhere around the thousands or 1100s, you have mention of jasmine and tea sometimes together. Now, were they using the same process as they use now? Absolutely not. But it was the sense that you could have jasmine influencing and being a very nice combination with tea. And so this actually has a long history. And you had other flowers in tea at that time. And remembering these were tea cakes, and usually the flowers were in the tea cakes. So you had this combination along with magnolias and other flowers. So there's a long history for this having happened. So let's think about jasmine for a second in terms of, obviously there's an aroma appeal. So why are scientists in China all over the study of jasmine tea? I mean, this is a hot topic. I had forgotten this until this week when I started, before we have these sessions, remembering that I always want to look impressive. I'm always looking for those 8-letter words with research studies and so forth. So I started my research on jasmine. There are tons of articles about the research vis-a-vis jasmine. So it goes from as prosaic as how to get the best production to very technical. What are the elements, the metabolites that are produced that are apparently extremely useful for human health? And there is more information and emphasis on that than I have seen. And particularly this last 3 or 4 years, there is a ton of information. So what does this information really revolve around? It revolves around, oh my God, if you are eating a high-fat diet and you're consuming jasmine, it's helpful for preventing dysbiosis. See, I found one of those 8-letter words. And dysbiosis is gut imbalance. Extremely helpful for adjusting. It's also helpful for if you're trying to lose weight. Apparently, jasmine is helpful for that as well. And it's not just because it smells good. Maybe the theory in years past, well, anything that smells good, I'll eat less. Oh, wait a minute. I don't think that works. That doesn't work for me. Anything that smells good, I eat more. Think cashews. Cashews smell great. I have no self-control around cashews. However, in analyzing the aromas and the metabolites in the aromas, what they're finding is, in addition to the dysbiosis, it is extremely helpful as an antidepressant. And they did a simple test. They tested the saliva in humans. They skipped all the animal tests. Let's get your saliva. And in the test subjects, they found lower levels of cortisol after the ingestion of jasmine tea. And they linked that to the jasmine, not the green tea itself, because as part of the test group, okay, well, we see lower levels with green tea. And let's get a nice cliff tea here, because, cliff tea, at least in my saliva, I always notice there's much less cortisol in my saliva. But in everybody else's, I guess it's about the same. So it's the jasmine, something about the absorption in the leaves of the compounds from the jasmine. They know that the terpenoids and another 8-letter word, I must be telling the truth, terpenoids and somebody's counting, the producer is counting here just to make sure it's at least 8 letters. Thank you very much. The terpenoids and the alcohols, think linalool, eugenol, geraniol, those oils, those alcohols also seem to have an antidepressant effect. So grandma's tales about, oh, dearie, you're not feeling well, let's have a jasmine tea. Wait a minute. Grandmas knew so much. Actually, there should be a whole field of science devoted to what grandmas know. Because if we had that, all the inventions would come so much faster, all the discoveries, because grandmas know all this stuff. And, just because they don't have the title scientists, nobody pays attention. We should be paying attention. So it turns out that these traditional thoughts about jasmine actually have a basis in science. So, and who knew? Really interesting. Now, for those of you who might have had a slightly dismissive air about today's session, are you a little bit more interested? I imagine the answer is yes. I certainly was more interested as I was doing the research. What's the other reason you should be more interested? We don't brag about what we do here. But there is one thing I will tell you that we do with every tea, whether it's a cliff tea, a red tea, or a jasmine. We go to the best sources. We go to where the scientists are working with the plants. Turns out in Guangxi, there are several research institutes devoted to jasmine. When we got those dragon pearls, remember that was a one-off because that was a scientific research that they were doing on the actually on the absorption of the aromas within green tea. And so we were able to snag that. Brightness is not an exception. We don't have all that much because this was part of a scientific project. Yes.
Jonathan asked, do they use jasmine flower buds or open flowers?
Great question. So, is a bud separated from an open flower? It's not. But the question is a great one because it really implies at what stage in that bud to open flower do you use the flower, and what stage is it most important, most potent? So here's the routine. When you're doing it that way, you pick the bud late in the afternoon, early evening. You bring it in, and by 11 o'clock, it's in and in with the tea leaves, and whether it's green tea or white tea or whatever tea style they're using, because it can be any of them, it's starting the process. And at that time, it's opening up. So it comes in as a bud that's almost open. You see it's starting to crack open, and then it's opening as it's working with the flowers. And you're working with the leaves. And you're getting this full fluorescent smell everywhere. And so actually, if you were blind and it was night and you were lost somewhere within 10 miles of where they do this, would you be able to find your way home to the jasmine patch? And the answer is absolutely yes, because the aroma is so powerful and they're doing so much of it there. 10 miles, you probably could be 25 miles out and be in that lousy condition and find your way home. So I just mentioned that this has also been part of an agricultural science experiment. So the experiment with brightness had to do with mixing varietals. And mixing varietals sounds like we're about to have a salad. Let me use correct terminology. Taking different varietals and crossing them. And they did something really interesting with this one. What they did is they actually worked with a TCM plant. And they crossed it. And because that plant had inherent fragrance, this end result, which is still a tea plant, has this inherent jasmine-y like fragrance. This one has not been infused. This is a result of crossing species. Now, when we first heard about this and were offered an opportunity for this, we said, send me a sample first. Because that seemed kind of impossible, right? We got the sample. We said, send me all of it after trying the sample. Again, my usual self-control under these circumstances. And that's how we ended up with this. This belongs to the lineage, and I mean lineage by the fact that it's part of a research project by agricultural scientists of the dragon pearls, the reed fragrance, and the brightness. So this has this inherent jasmine quality in it. And what that tells you about jasmine overall, and we know this, but we don't think about it because we look outside for all of you who are here in California. We look outside our window. Oh, that's nice jasmine flowers growing there. So I ask you this. Is there only one varietal of jasmine? Oh, no. Turns out there are hundreds of varietals of jasmine, and they all have different characteristics, but they're within a generalized range. In other words, they all have aroma. Some is more potent, some has hints of other things in it. It's really interesting, really interesting. But that's what you're getting today. Yes.
Do you know what the qualities are of the TCM plant that was hybridized into the tea bush?
Great question. So the questioner has said, okay, I like the sound of TCM with jasmine. All of a sudden, jasmine is rising to the top of my list of maybe something I should drink. And especially if I'm about to say to you that, oh, it makes your knee joints never hurt. Oh my God, I need brightness. I need that every day. Now, let's set the record straight. This is actually a technical secret, and nobody has told us. We have a guess, but it's not confirmed. Nobody has told, and every time we ask, and we try trickery asking, we try situational asking, we know lots of ways to elicit information. And I've tried every left and right and central, including just the ball, hey, I got to know this. And I always get one of these elliptical answers. You don't like elliptical. I don't like elliptical. And if I tried to give you an elliptical answer to that question, you'd be thinking, oh, understudy thinks he can slip by an elliptical answer. And then for the next 8 weeks, I'd hear other questions trying to unearth the answer to that. The real answer is we don't know. We really don't know. And because it's still in process and in experimentation phase, one of the things we're grateful on the one hand and curious on the other. And we're grateful that we are in the line of people who can get this and bring this and share this with you. We're very grateful for that. And we certainly don't abuse that relationship. And so we don't harass people if the answer is just not forthcoming. The reality is when they say this is an IP thing, hey, all done. No questions, no further questions. And so that's where we are with this currently. We don't even know if in the future we can get this again. we've not asked because we don't ask until we're getting close to we need it. We're not that far away from we need it, by the way. I think we have 2 large bags left, but 2 large bags is probably not more than 5 or 6 pounds. So we're getting down there. We're getting down there. So that's what we're having today. Let's see. Oh, we're having it today if I can ever stop talking. So let me see if I can get around to stop talking here. What else do I want to tell you? Nothing else, I think. Not at this stage. Oh, actually, I do want to tell you. We're all so lucky today to have a tea master who is in such a beautiful state, a great mood, a great brewing mood, and a great teaching mood. Numinous, full of energy, chi exuding. Oh, did I use that word? That was an accident. All over the place. It is my great pleasure to bring forth the tea master, Bijou.
Hi, good morning. 早上好. Yeah, we do Jasmine. Yeah, this is from Guangxi, our province in China. Okay, we do just help me.
Yeah.
It's my.
So the things you need to pay attention to, there's 2 aspects of this. You need to pay attention, 2 mugs as usual. You need to observe 2 large glasses, and we'll talk to you about this later. What you need to have when you brew are these 2 mugs, and that's it. It's like a normal brewing of a green tea. Going to use 175-degree water for this. As usual, preheat. Make sure everything's clean. This is really interesting. 2 tall glasses. Maybe I'm going to get something extra. We'll see in a minute. The usual, make sure everything is heated. Everything is in good shape from no interference with original flavor. And by the way, don't try some of these things at home because some of these things are hard to do. You know, she's handling those 2 glasses as if they're not hot. Oh no, they're very hot. Okay. And it looks like she's drawing water.
No, another.
170. So, okay, got it. So one of the things of magic when she brews, there's an even greater precision. And while we don't reflect some of this in the rules, because it's really hard to, here, the greater precision is she releases or dissipates the steam to something that ends up being between 170 and 175. Don't worry about this stuff. Follow the 175, you're going to get the great flavor. Dissipate the steam on top of that and leave and be better. So you notice I moved away from temperature on this one. I talked about dissipating the steam on this one. And that's really how you should think about it. See, this is a master class of all of you because you all are so good. Yes, rhythmical. Grabbing one of those, 2 of those actually. What looks like?
No, that's not.
What? That's what I thought.
You're right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. That's 4 grams. Oh, she's gonna use these tall glasses. This is exciting. I wonder what that's gonna produce. Usual, trying to get the heat distributed among the leaves. Pouring the water back into the kettle so to control the flow of the pour into the glass.
这叫做高冲。
Yes, and she on purpose does it at a higher level. That's further dissipation of the steam. Yes, they have a 2-minute steeping time. Same thing, poured the water back into the kettle and went ahead and put it in the taller glass.
Jonathan asked, you mentioned the green tea used is of the highest quality.
Oh,
If the blossoms were never added, would it still stand up with other high quality greens?
this is a great question, and it reminds me, it's a truly great question, Jonathan, because it reminds me that I forgot to tell you. I saw this very extensive research about effect in experiments, especially related to these experiments about health benefits, potential health benefits, taste. And it turns out that without question, they're able to prove that if you use low quality green tea, the absorption is less than if you use high quality green tea. So if you're trying to do this for a health benefit and you get garbage green tea as the base, you're going to get a garbage result. In other words, you're not going to get the highest result. And the perfection of this question is such that I actually just this morning happened on an article about that very subject. It's like everything that we've discovered so far. If you want maximum benefits, that's this one. That's this one. If you want maximum benefits, you get the stuff that's been done in the best way, highest quality, and that's just an end of story. Okay, first 2 minutes is done. First cup.
There's a part 2 to what Jonathan asked that I think may not have been covered, and I had not read it to you yet.
Okay.
Part 2 is the green tea made knowing that the blossoms are coming and so is treated differently than a standalone green tea?
Oh, also a great question for another reason, because I failed to tell you about the process. And so this is great too. So I'm going to get to that in a second. We're going to enter the quality arena and then I'll answer that question. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to look at this. Oh, it has color. We like color. Oh, it has aroma. And we're going to enter the quality arena. And remember, I'm looking for, is it astringent? I'm looking for aftertaste, and I'm looking for energetics. Okay. I'm taking notes on this because we're going to do Jasmine next week, and you're going to notice a difference between this week's and next week's. Wow. Okay, in lots of different ways, Wayne. All right, it's your turn to brew. And let me answer this question that Jonathan posed, which is a really fine question. So, when making jasmine, is green tea, does the farmer know I'm growing this and it's going to be used for jasmine? The answer is absolutely yes. So that's the first part of that question. The implied second part is knowing that it's going to be used for jasmine, what sort of fewer or greater number of things need to be done to the tea? And so this is why I love this question, because this is what I should talk about first. Okay, let's first back up a minute. Let's talk about jasmine in China. So obviously Guangxi is the big famous place for doing it because of quantity and their scientific research institutes. Traditionally, which place is usually first mentioned? Fujian province, jasmine tea, home run. And everybody has heard of Fujian jasmine tea. And from a quality standpoint, for years and years and years and years and years, this has been the place. But because the demand grew so great, lots of the production is done in Guangxi. Are there other places that are famous for jasmine tea? Suzhou is, Zhejiang is. So you have 3 or 4 different places, but all at much lesser quantities. So let's think about this. Say you were a farmer in Fujian province and the jasmine, especially the traditional jasmine processing modality, ability was reduced, which, by the way, has happened. Or even worse than that, you have the ultimate sin in tea industry. What is that ultimate sin? You take a shortcut. Shortcuts aren't inherently bad unless you take the following. By the way, you're brewing. And while you're brewing and following and watching what the tea master is doing, I'm still talking. No self-control. The ultimate sin is what? Hey, we could save a lot of money if we didn't have to infuse this 3 to 7 times. There's some jasmine essence that sticks real good to the leaves. We just spray it on, and nobody will know the difference. A bunch of lies in that sentence. The first and most obvious lie is that nobody will know the difference. You can taste the difference. That's the first thing. Second thing, it's a different product. It really is when you do that versus the absorption. Not the absorption, adsorption, production. And so that ability to do the adsorption production has reduced because people have gone the shortcut rate, but it hasn't reduced in Guangxi. And so you're this farmer, I want the real process, the original process applied to my leaves. Now, why would any farmer care? I mean, usually farmers, they are in the countryside, right? They just want dollars and cents, right? Well, let me tell you this. The dollars and cents actually are a driving point for this, because when you do it the traditional way, there's more dollars and cents involved with that. When you do it the shortcut way, yeah, it's faster, and yeah, you get less money. And so the farmers, do they have more expense by sending it to Guangxi province? Well, they obviously have a transportation expense. What other hidden expense do they have? Storage. When do those flowers start blooming in Guangxi? Turns out they have flowers blooming from April through October. Remember where this is. This is the Tropic of Cancer. The weather is humid and hot for a long time. They have different varietals, production of flowers for 5 to 6 months. But that means that the farmer has to store the green tea because it's ready usually in March. And so you have a storage cost. And if they want it at a later month, because each varietal is going to produce a certain effect. And if they want a certain effect and they have to really wait until June or July, that's more storage cost. So there are inherent different costs. And that's why I love this question, because nothing is straightforward about this, because we just think, oh, jasmine tea. And because we've been conditioned by restaurant tea bag jasmine tea, and because we've had this wave since 2015 of sprayed on, which is garbage. Oh, let me back up, which is shortcut and not the same effect as this tea. So there hasn't been a clear understanding. But you're the 1%ers. You have a clear understanding. You don't drink tea bag tea. You don't drink sprayed on essence tea. That's for, somebody talked to me the other day. They said, what do I do with all this tea I'm gifted and I really can't drink it? And they were talking about various strategies. And it's easy. You have enemies come over occasionally. So you have the enemy tea cabinet, and then you have the special friend tea cabinet. Yes.
Rob shares, so Thelonious Monk and John Coltrane equals Jasmine. I thought that was really helpful.
Extremely helpful and funny. Yes.
Peter also shares, Seals and Croft drinking this when they wrote the song Summer Breeze.
I should have known that this was going to be this type of a session. I love this. And this is really being present. This is really a way of understanding this tea and linking it to things that we love in other parts of our lives. Great comments.
Jennifer says, Tisane for enemies as opposed to enemies' demise.
And there you go. This is a great slogan. Tisane's for enemies rather than enemies' demise. I love that. So I should have that on the front door. I'm going to consider that. You know what? I'm going to get a review. So for those of you who've ever looked at our reviews, there's a review that occurred on one of the services that somebody alerted me to. And I just burst out laughing when I saw the review, because the person never entered the shop because they said they were offended by not all caffeine is black. And in the review itself, it said, they don't know that caffeine isn't colored. And all I could do was laugh, and I left it there because I actually, and it's a 1-star review, which is great. I want it right on top to show the stupidity of the reviewer. Go ahead.
Jonathan, I hope they also left their name. Jonathan says, I feel a thickness in this tea water. How much can I attribute that to the tea or the flowers or both?
This is a great question. Jonathan is talking about the viscousness, the density, the thickness of the tea water. And he asked me a trick question. And this is great because I love trick questions. He said, how much can be attributed to the flower versus the leaves? And what a great question, especially after I just reminded everybody there were no flowers associated with this tea. So let me think, how much is the leaves and how much is the flowers? I think it must be the leaves.
Okay, then. Peter shares the first smell of the awakened leaves was pure jasmine, but the second sniff, the green tea alone, the green tea leaf aroma came through as its own entity. I'm guessing, says Peter, that this is telltale of non-sprayed on jasmine.
Oh, that's a really good observation. So Peter's able to distinguish. Read the first part of that again,
Yeah.
because it's really interesting.
The first scent of the awakened leaves was pure jasmine,
Yeah,
but that's within the second sniff, the green tea leaves came through.
yeah. So the jasmine scent was apparent in the first
Warmed leaves.
warm leaves. Now, I remind you again that this has not been infused with jasmine, and this is the magic of this tea. And then the second steep, it's more of the green tea. So part of the, okay, now I know exactly how to answer it because I'm thinking through, even as I'm talking to you, what the actual situation is. That scent of jasmine, that apparent, so this is tricky. There are metabolites in combination with your saliva and mouth fluids that are produced. And that creates one sort of reaction that once that wears off, which is instantaneously, you get the second sort of reaction. So the first sort, let's go back to this comment. First, the smell, remembering that the smell and the initial reaction in your mouth produces some sort of antidepressant effect. So some part of the brain and the stomach, by the way, probably in the wrong order, probably the stomach first, and then the brain is sending your whole system messages, including your immune system. Because remember, this is really complicated. The immune system is doing a test. Oh, did you just give me poison? Or, oh, am I supposed to be in love? Or, oh, the immune system is reacting right away. So actually, wow, what an interesting question, because it really makes you think about how instantaneously everything is going on. And
that maybe even from the first scent, your body is reacting.
Correct. That's correct. The first scent causes your body to react because friend or foe, right away. And we're trained at the hypothalamus, at the flight or friend or foe center of the brain. Hey, am I here? And are we going to be friends? Or, oh, this is danger. And everything that we do on a subconscious level has a reaction. That was a complicated answer to a simple question. Sorry about
but
that.
the question was evocative, and I think that's in the way that the tea is evocative. I'm circling back to Jonathan's comment because he adds a part two clarification. So his first question or comment had been, hey, I feel a thickness in this tea water. How much can I attribute that to tea or flowers?
Yeah.
And his follow-up, he says, I'll qualify. The oils from blossoms, after they're meticulously removed from the tea leaves, still, does that contribute to this thickness in the liquid that I'm experiencing?
Great question. Okay, that is a great question because that's a follow-up because, and this is actually linked again to Peter's comment because you're right. There's a thickness in this, and all of you who've had restaurant jasmine, it isn't anything like that. There's no thickness. It's like you're drinking water that somebody's put a little scent in. This, and I like the fact you used oil because now I'm on exact track with you because it does taste almost like the leaves have secreted an oil in this water to make it so viscous. So what's the question? Did I answer the question? Let's see.
Kind of, sort of, maybe, sort of. I
Okay,
think
we're getting
Yeah,
our arms around this because,
Yeah.
and I like this because remembering that this is institute Jasmine, in other words, a scientific institute. So they're breaking the bounds just as we, as the 1%ers, are breaking the bounds of the judgments about this tea. And that's why these questions are really interesting because you wouldn't ask these questions about restaurant jasmine. You just wouldn't because it's in and out. Oh, I'm in the enemy camp. Why did you give me this?
And maybe someday there'll be a report that we can read from this scientific effort, which would be really great.
Yeah.
Rob shares the impact of the jasmine on my taste and smell hides the underlying astringency.
Oh, isn't that interesting? Mine too. So Rob's comment is the underlying astringency is there, but it's hidden initially because you're distracted by all of these flavors and aromas, and it absolutely is. And also, again, by and this is why Jonathan's opening comment is so good because it's talking about the viscousness. We're not used to that with jasmine. We simply are not. We're used to watery, something that just leaves no impression except something that's almost like an essence that's been applied.
Jennifer says this is a very jasmine-y jasmine tea.
Great. Jasmine tea. Great comment because this lingers. It has, okay, let's back up. We've all had, when we were children, jasmines that are cloying and they turn a little bitter. This is not bitter at all. This is not cloying at all. This is what jasmine should be every single time you have it. Whether it's those dragon pearls. Those dragon pearls had some of the same exact qualities because it was thick. It wasn't fleeting and it didn't turn bitter. Great comment.
Peter says instant astringency and the flavor really reminds me of ylang ylang. Is that how I say it?
Oh, yeah, the flower. Oh, that's interesting. So not that pure jasmine flavor. And there is, in quotes, and you're hearing from me today, no such thing as a pure jasmine flavor, although there's a channel. And this is clearly the jasmine channel. But the jasmine channel is wide enough to include these other scents and these other flowers. And so, great comment.
The real jasmine channel.
The real jasmine
incredible.
channel.
Rob says, and it's just too great not to share. That song, Summer Breeze, is now stuck in my head, but the tea makes me feel fine.
Hey, I'll tell you. Rob's comment is the tea makes him feel fine. And this is a tea, I don't know why, maybe because I'm talking about this morning, but it is uplifting. And remembering that Sometimes I get distracted by other teas. Sometimes I don't spend enough time in this area because this is really, really special. Yeah.
Jennifer says, I'm impressed with your research and it makes me want to like this tea. It's quite aspirational.
You know, it's really interesting because, and I thank you for that, Jennifer, because I know how we all think about our teas because we're in here all the time when we're talking about stuff, and I'm never advancing this tea as something you should try unless somebody comes in and says, well, I want jasmine. And then, okay, well, this is a possibility. But in fact, this is a reminder to all of us every so often when we're in a mood that we need that uplifting and we need feeling good. What a great choice.
Peter shares, I felt an initial brightness, both inside and how the world looked from behind my eyes and how it feels like it's soaking down through me.
Love this comment. Brightness is what Peter initially felt, and then this soaking down into him in terms of the energetics. There is no question that this is a bright tea, and yet it's not bright in fool's gold brightness. It's bright because it's the real deal. I love doing sessions with all of you because you ask great questions, you make great commentary, and as usual, you show why you're the 1%ers. Truly love that. I salute you for really getting into this today. We have 2 more sessions in this set of 3. Next week, we're going to do silver jasmine. So remember the notes you took on this because silver jasmine will be different. And we'll talk extensively about that next week. We'll talk about a little bit more information about jasmine in general. And then the 3rd week, we have a semi-surprise. You'll see that the name is listed there, unconditional. But if you've not had that tea, you're in for a surprise. So what are you supposed to do during this week? Don't you love it when I give an assignment every Saturday? Oh, and it's the same assignment. You're supposed to stay healthy this week. Have a great week. We'll see you next week now. Bye-bye now.
There you guys. Bye.